making it a 15-minute piece, and it's very faithful to the film, but, you know, a bit more condensed to, you know, learn about friendship, learn about grief, rather than going to the Great Valley.
You need to find those tiny little quirks that made the characters themselves and kind of sort of try and find a way to translate them into 3D, if that makes sense.
There's a huge fan base out there for The Land Before Time. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of them are like, you know, don't ruin it, you know, the people, people that don't like remakes.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to, now are you in the already started production on Land Before Time, or are you?
We sure have.
Yeah. I think we're good, like what, maybe 30% in.
Oh, wow. And how faithful is it to the original, or have you changed very much of it, or how are you making this your own signature piece?
So, because we don't have the budget to make it a full feature film, obviously, we're making.
I laugh because that's always the case. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a bunch of guys in our bedrooms, hopefully making something nice. We're making it a 15-minute piece. So basically, it's, instead of it's, you know, Littlefoot trying to find the Great Valley, it's Littlefoot, you know, learning to deal with grief, learning about new connections. And it's very faithful to the film, but, you know, a bit more condensed to show Littlefoot's journey to, you know, learn about friendship, learn about grief, rather than going to the Great Valley.
Yeah, it's more like it's more of a missing moment, including like flashbacks from the original, or like key scenes that we all remember playing as flashbacks. I think we could call it that, more or less.
The original, interesting enough, was when we were making a transition from going from California to Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
And the film, as we were making it, was actually mirroring our own lives as we were living it out. We were now going into a whole different culture, and we had to learn how to co-create together with, you know, Irish artists and adapt to the culture. So we were like, in the same way, Littlefoot, Spike, Sarah, and all of them, trying to learn how to work together for our collective survival. It fed itself, you know, consciously and subconsciously into the fabric of the film, which was kind of cool.
That's incredible.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was a great adventure, and for like almost 2 years, we slaved over that film. I've got a couple of rough pencil tests. These are like pose tests. Would you guys like to see those?
Please,
literally, I'd be honored. That would be incredible.
This first test is my animation keys from when Littlefoot is born.
Oh my gosh,
I love that.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Brings back a lot of memories. And you know, the three partners, myself, Don Bluth, and Gary Goldman, we each had our stages that worked out for us. Don being director, storyboard artist, and would create a lot of the characters and design them. He would do a rough version of the character design, lateral it to me, and I would fine tune it and create the model sheets and then supervise all the animation. So supervision of animation was my area, directing and storyboarding was his, and then Gary would be taking care of all the post-production, the music, the contracting, everything. So each of us had our own area that we felt very comfortable in, and that worked for us with Secret of NIMH, Dragon's Lair, Games, Space Ace, American Tail, Land Before Time, and all the other features that we did together in our 14 years together.
You guys genuinely shaped my whole childhood. I brought it into my later career, where my whole goal as a filmmaker and director is to create wonderful, beautiful stories, but set in a dark world. You guys made Land Before Time at a time when kid films weren't really afraid to be dark. Was that ever a concern of yours, or was it always the goal to kind of push that emotion? Because you've left us with a lot of trauma, John.
I'm sorry. And I can remember at age 14, when you're extremely rebellious, my folks wanted to go see Bambi, and I wanted to go see the Beatles and Hard Day's Night. So, but you know what? They, parents rule, and I had to go willingly to the theater and watch Bambi. Here's the surprise, though. Halfway through the movie, the mother gets shot, and I'm sobbing. This irate, rebellious teenager is crying. And it stayed with me. That embarrassment stayed with me. It's like, what kind of art form is this that has that much power over someone like myself? I went to the library, found books on animation, and became a disciple. my dream to get invited to become an artist at Disney Studios. I wanted to be a background artist, and I converted over to animation and became an animator. So the old classic Disney did not hide you from trauma. It was part of their anthem that they would take you into a dark place before. You can't feel the delight of the high places unless you've been to the dark lows. Ooh. And that's what Walt would do. The more you try to hide the audience or make it milquetoast or soften it, it loses a lot of its punch. Don't hold back on the emotions. Even in your 15 minutes, deliver that emotional punch, because you're going to take them through a journey. It's going to be cathartic at first, and it's going to be a delight afterwards.
Well, that's one of the goals for our film, right? Because we don't want to shy away from the beautiful work you guys have done. And I guess that's another question I had, actually, is there's a lot of talk about, things that were cut from Land Before Time, especially the T-Rex fight. Was there a moment or sequence, maybe even from the T-Rex fight, that you wish people could have seen?
It's those close-up, teeth-baring jabs coming out into the screen towards the Littlefoot and Petrian dinosaurs that he's pursuing. It's those kind of scenes that were, I think, finally edited out, just because the intensity was just dialed up a little bit too much. I remember a close-up scene that Don boarded, and we were getting ready to issue that to an animator, and it was discussed with Steven, and we decided, let's remove that and maybe 2 or 3 other scenes.
Land Before Time came out before Jurassic Park. So before dinosaurs were everywhere, right? So how did you approach designing, animating them to feel believable and appeal them without that kind of reference? Because there was a lot back then, but not so much now, right?
We had it wasn't a research library, it was more of a photo lab, and they would sell tons of Super 8 reference films there. Old cartoons, old silver screen movies, and old reference tapes. And I would have my little editor and I can study them. And we got elephant footage, rhinoceros footage.
We're also using elephant footage.
Ostrich footage.
Wow.
And any kind of lizard footage. And that gave us a leg up as far as figuring out the structure and how it pertains to the weight and the gravity, the pull, and the walk that we had to do. So, all the characters, Petrie, how a pterodactyl would fly, looking at bat footage, looking at pelican footage, looking at bird footage, wings. At that time, we had a series of books. It was a photo anthology that was done by a photographer here in America called Edward Mybridge. And he did Animals in Action and Humans in Action. If you ever get a chance to look at those books, if you guys can grab a copy of those books, he broke down the sequence frame to frame of an elephant walk. I think he's even got a hippopotamus in there. I think he's got a rhinoceros. He's got tigers. He's got elk and deer and chickens and falcons and owls flying through. It's kind of a great handbook tool for 2D and CG animators to study animal action. That was our source of reference at the time.
I've always wanted to know this one, and I thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to find out. So the sequels of Land Before Time went in a very different direction. If you guys had stayed on, if you ever made a part 2, Land Before Time 2, directed by Don Bluth, and you guys were all on it, because I understand that you guys didn't have, we weren't on the sequels. If you had the chance, what would it have looked like?
So it'd have to be a story of a new goal that they had in mind, and what was the opposition to that? And once again, who is the villain? And the villain is very important, whether it's Sharptooth or whether it's a circumstance, an eruption of a volcano, or whatever that may be. They're already at the valley where they want to be. They're with their grandparents. So something would have to interrupt that wonderful utopian universe that they've arrived at, that they've been struggling through. Something has to take that away, and that they have to find it again. It would be about as simple as that. And then you'd have to layer it with all the interesting challenges, all of the animosities, all the old, prejudices that the little character Sarah had against long necks, and all of this other stuff would play into that, and how they would finally arrive to that final goal, whatever that may be. Creativity is interesting because it like swings in 10-year cycles like a pendulum, and the very things that we were accusing Disney of being stale and being in a rut and not being innovative, we actually ran into that rut ourselves. I definitely, after about 10 years of this, wearing that producer's hat so tightly and so hard, I was missing animation. I wasn't able to draw, and it's like, it was like making me extremely stale as far as being creative. So if this troika continues on after your 15-minute Land Before Time, just be aware, you're always going to have to be looking for fresh ideas, fresh blood, innovative people that can come in. It was one of the great things that Walt Disney was able to do. He always was spotting out for new talent and was always seeking how to incorporate them into this gigantic kingdom called the Disney Empire. So
no, I love that. Well, that's kind of how we met, right? Because I mean, a little introduction to it is my name's Joey. I'm the guy who wanted to make this film. The way I describe myself is I feel like an orchestra. I'm the one that's swinging the stick, but these guys are making the magic. So I just put out a little call on Facebook going, hey, look, this film means so much to me. I just want to see it in this new light. Is anyone here available? Can anyone come and help? That's where I found Matt. That's where I found David. And it's nice because you just get this trifecta of like these magical people that you just meet and it just works.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's always nice to, it's a nice connection when you feel that, right?
I read something really interesting the other day, Joey. Being that you are the director, you're the captain of the ship, that the players in the orchestra really don't care one way or another what the audience thinks, but if they can just get a nod of approval from the conductor, that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, very true, yes.
Team, make sure that you have Joey's heart on your side when it comes to the thing that you're trying to create.
And they do.
It makes the unit that much stronger together, and you have one mission and one goal in mind. You're all traveling in the same direction.
Exactly.
Very, very important. Now, this is going to be CG application, correct?
That is right.
Dave, what are you encountering with animation as far as working with Littlefoot and the other characters?
Well, you need to find those tiny little quirks that made the characters themselves and kind of sort of try and find a way to translate them into 3D, if that makes sense. Sometimes you can, sometimes you cannot. So you need to find a sweet spot to keep those traits the same so that, you can tell it's them, you can tell it's the characters. But at the same time, you also kind of need to translate into a different art form that, most of the time it kind of can go in tandem with 2D, but not all the time. So it's kind of up to us to say, okay, we're keeping that, but we're not keeping this. If that makes sense.
Yeah, give me an example of something that you can keep and then something that you have to avoid.
All right, I'm pretty sure Matthew's going to relate to this. The poker, like this thing, overly exaggerated mouth forms. And we are trying to keep that as much as possible whenever the characters go like do or who or like all that. But sometimes in 3D, it's a way, the transition from like, for example, E to U will be far too quick. So you need to find a little bit of a sweet spot in between. It wouldn't look as weird in 2D. But sometimes it does in 3D, but we're trying to stick to that as much as possible.
Maybe one of the things that can help you is that we had a lot of new talent that we were training at that time. The tendency is to over-animate.
Right.
As you get more seasoned and more experience, you pull back and you restrain yourself. This is what my teachers, my mentors, the 9 old men at Disney taught me when I was working there in the 70s. How to restrain your acting so you're not overly acting and overly enunciating the words. You're in a good place if you're even thinking of ways to pull that back a little bit. That's the way it should be actually in 2D animation as well. The one scene I can remember doing, there was the sequence where Mother dies. And that whole little area there was my sequence. So he comes up over the rock and she lays down and they have that moment together. I think her dialogue is really pulled back. The way she enunciates the words, the way the jaw is moving. You're trying to make sure that the dialogue, the recorded dialogue, marries itself to the drawn or created CG character, and then they mesh together into one persona. Once you do that, then you'll have the heart and the soul of the audience, and you'll engage them in that wonderful willing suspension of disbelief.
Correct.
So kudos to you, Dave.
Thank you so much. Well, I mean, coming from you means the world. So thank you so
bless
much.
you. And then we've got the effects. You got your effects champ, Matt, there. What are you encountering, Matt?
We're trying to, or at least what I was trying to do when I refined some of the models and did the texturing for the characters, was to give them a somewhat real world texture, but to keep the palette, the colors, and the styling of the designs of the original. The original.
Oh, fantastic!
So,
fantastic. Do you get involved with the environments as well, or are you just specifically the characters?
I'm kind of involved in everything. Yes, but we're having a hard time finding environment artists, so we hardly have any environments textured yet.
Matt, who's been the most difficult character to rig? I'm curious.
That would probably be Petrie, I think.
I can confirm.
Yeah, because he wings are difficult, and his eyes are probably more expressive than the other characters.
Skin as opposed to feathers, is one easier than the other?
Skin. Feathers are the worst to rig.
Probably the skin is probably easier, because if you got the feathers, you got to deal with all the feathers.
One by one.
The more surface area and elements to the mesh or the assets of the character, increases the likelihood of issues. So
Don Moore was our art director, and he stylized the color on all of our movies. And it's interesting because color and textures are really another note to add to the storytelling. You're telling your story in, of course, spoken word, an audio track, in a music track, in effects track, in color application, and in movement with the animation. All these elements come together, and they push the dramatic and comic abilities of the storytelling medium forward, and they're all important. So, I mean, if you guys someone good with color and how it applies to the backgrounds and the environment's fantastic.
There's a huge fan base out there for The Land Before Time. Yeah. And a lot of them are like, don't ruin it, the people that don't like remakes.
Wait, you tell them you talked to one of the producers and he's supporting you, and I will pray for success for you guys, because you know what?
That's very sweet of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're all working together for the survival of the medium, whether it's CG or 2D or sock puppets, whatever it might be. We're working towards the same vision, the same goal.
Just to say thank you, John. We've actually got a little clip for you.
Oh, wonderful!
Obviously, I'm speaking for all of us here. We're so grateful that you're on here speaking to us. Like, genuinely, it's a dream come true for me. I'm sure it's for everyone else.
Likewise.
Like, genuinely, you're such a big part of our childhood, and we wanted to show. We've not shown anyone anything of this film yet, other than a few renders of the characters. And
for my eyes only.
To show you a special sequence from the film that I think you'll hopefully appreciate. So if I can,
absolutely,
if I'm allowed to quickly show this.
You did it! You're amazing! Now, come on, let's go, get up! I bet Grandma and Grandpa are wondering where we are. Mother? Mother? Please get up.
I'm not sure if I can, Littlefoot.
Yes, you can. Get up. Mother. Mother?
Dear sweet Littlefoot. Do you remember the way to the Great Valley?
I guess so. I wanted to know if you're going to be with me.
I'll be with you. Even if you can't see me.
What do you mean I can't see you? I can always see you.
Littlefoot, let your heart guide you. It whispers. So listen closely.
Mother? Mother?
Yay!
Very nice.
Oh, John, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah, that's a nice heart tug, and you've improved it from the original. It's really nice. See, you got all kinds of advantages with the camera that we couldn't do back then, and you're going to use it as, you know, that extra character that will just improve the drama. And lovely. Is that your animation, Dave?
It is.
Yeah,
Very
job.
fascinating with this sequence. So thank you, Joey.
Yeah, I like the way Littlefoot moves. Your heart, you've got it. It's a
Thank you so
wonderful,
much.
wonderful moment. It's going to be absolutely wonderful when we see all of the final color and textures and everything on it. But the bones of a terrific performance are there. Fantastic, guys. Kudos to you guys.
Thank you. I have no words to
Bravo.
express my appreciation. Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
When you guys are nearing the end of your production, I would love to visit you guys again.
Whoa, that'd
We'll
be
be
great.
here. We'll be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bless you all. Keep up the great work.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, John.
All right.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
So.